What unfolds when an ordinary flight becomes a captivating spectacle for all to witness? A journey that seemed destined for the ordinary took an unexpected turn for Barron Trump, spiraling into turmoil. Yet, the storm that followed Melania's arrival was completely unforeseen. As the final boarding call echoed through the bustling terminal of Dallas Love Field Airport, the loudspeaker crackled to life. Barron Trump found himself near Gate 12. His imposing figure sank into a chair that seemed ill-suited for his stature. Amidst the bustling crowd of hurried travelers eager to board their flights, he kept his head down, absorbed in the glow of his phone. At 17, his life unfolded in ways that were far from the mundane. Yet, he had mastered the skill of blending seamlessly into the crowd. Yet, today, that journey was on the brink of facing its greatest challenge. An elderly man with sharp features and an unmistakable air of impatience approached the area, his presence commanding attention like a character stepping onto the stage. Barron, nestled in the exclusive priority boarding section, captured his gaze. The teenager's aloof attitude seemed to vex him. Amidst the swirling sounds, the agent's voice cut through like a beacon. "Pardon me, young man," he inquired. His demeanor carried an air of doubt. "Are you sure you belong to the right residential group?" Barron looked up, a mix of surprise and calmness washing over him. "Absolutely, I am. I hold a ticket of the highest class." His upbringing shone through in the calm and gracious tone of his voice. The agent took a moment to scrutinize Barron, noting the relaxed fit of his hoodie and the simplicity of his footwear, his eyes flitting momentarily to the phone in his hand. "Could I perhaps take a look at your ticket?" Barron paused, caught in a moment of uncertainty. He was not the first soul to be chosen for reasons that remained shrouded in mystery. Yet, there was an intriguing quality to the man's demeanor that hinted at a more assertive nature. As he handed over his boarding pass, his name shone brightly on the screen, a beacon of his journey ahead. The agent recited the name Barron Trump, pausing thoughtfully. His demeanor grew resolute, refusing to back down, as his expression transformed. "Kindly stay right here for the time being." Those nearby started to take notice of them. A gentle murmur of curiosity fills the air. Barron felt a warmth rising in his cheekbones, yet he wore a mask of indifference, as if the world around him held no sway over his demeanor. In a brief interlude, the agent reappeared, this time in the company of a supervisor. The agent conveyed with certainty that there seems to be a problem with your ticket. "It is necessary for you to step back as we work through this situation." Barron voiced his discontent. "What seems to be the trouble? Weeks ago, I secured this ticket with careful planning. In a moment of urgency, the superintendent stepped in. At this moment, we are skillfully navigating the circumstances, sir. Withdraw from the entrance." Barron sensed the weight of his fellow passengers' stares as he hesitantly moved aside. A few souls reached for their smartphones, eager to immortalize the moment of connection. The whispers grew louder. His frustration bubbled beneath the surface, yet he held it back, wary of stirring the waters around him. Yet, the tale was far from reaching its calm conclusion. The journey was just beginning to unfold. Barron watched the other passengers embark with ease, leaning against a nearby column in quiet contemplation. The gate staff exchanged furtive glances, while the crowd's whispers swelled, growing more fervent with every fleeting moment. He stood there, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, pondering the cause of the delay. Could this be linked to his surname, or is there a different story behind it altogether? He was not one to leap to conclusions, yet this situation was starting to resonate on a deeper level. The supervisor reappeared after a while, his demeanor steadfast and unaltered. "Alas, we find ourselves unable to verify your identity through the system. Do you have another way to identify yourself?" Barron's brow was deeply creased. "My passport is tucked away in my carry-on luggage, ready for the journey ahead. You overlooked the need to confirm it?" The supervisor paused, clearly surprised by the reasoned reply, yet he stood firm, doubling down on his position. "My good sir, this matter extends beyond mere identification. There are certain protocols that one must follow closely." "What are the steps to follow?" Barron asked, his manner steady yet laced with doubt. "What tales of procedure do we have in place? Many times have I traversed this airport, each journey unfolding without a hitch." Once again, the gate agent from earlier stepped in. We have journeyed through a few. The latest chapter of unexpected events. You are not being singled out. Yet, his irises revealed the truth within him. Barron remained skeptical, and a handful of nearby passengers started to whisper amongst themselves. A woman in her late 40s, cradling a toddler against her chest, began to speak. What seems to be the problem? He is but a young soul who has received a notice of infraction. Let him set forth on his journey. The supervisor turned a blind eye to her, focusing solely on Barron. Please stay here as we carry out a further assessment. Should we not adhere to the guidelines, we will have no choice but to elevate the matter at hand. What compels one to elevate the situation? Barron's patience was wearing thin as he echoed the sentiment once more. What particular steps are you undertaking to elevate the situation? I stand unblemished by any wrongdoing. Just then, as if summoned by an unseen hand, a duo of airport security officers emerged from the shadows. Barron's chest tightened in astonishment at how swiftly the situation was unraveling, rather than from fear. The officers flanking him captured even greater notice from the crowd. Devices were actively capturing every fleeting moment. One officer spoke to the other with a calm demeanor. Sir, we would be grateful if you could join us. We only need you to answer a few questions. Barron's jaw clenched as he seized his carry-on luggage, releasing a heavy breath. Very well. He ventured into a small, pristine room close to the gate. The officers invited him to take a seat at a table inside the facility. As an officer started to examine his passport, the atmosphere thickened and chilled. Barron whispered softly, shaking his head in disbelief. This is absurd. One of the officers lifted his gaze. We are merely following the path laid out before us, my son. Yet, the word protocol started to emerge as a guise for something darker, and with each question posed, Barron felt an increasing awareness of an unvoiced prejudice lingering in the atmosphere. Barron remained blissfully ignorant of the fact that another soul was already en route, and her mood was far from cheerful. In the bustling streets of Dallas, a black SUV glided through the traffic, with Melania Trump nestled comfortably in the rear seat, observing the world outside her window. With her phone cradled in her palm, she paused, as if the device held the secrets of 1,000 tales waiting to be told. With a heart full of anticipation, she planned a quick trip to the airport, eager to surprise her son upon his arrival from the skies. Yet, her calm facade began to crack, giving way to a sense of unease as her phone buzzed relentlessly with a flurry of text messages and social media alerts. A single message held her in its enchanting grip. Barron finds himself in a predicament at the airport. People are sharing their stories through videos. With deft precision, her fingers danced across the screen, revealing a fleeting glimpse of Barron being escorted away from the gate by security personnel. With each repetition, her brow knitted tighter, deepening the furrow that marked her concentration. With a steady voice that held authority, she urged the driver to hasten the process. Barron found himself in the cramped confines of the airport room, his eyes fixed on the unadorned wall that loomed before him. The officers had taken their leave to confirm his credentials, leaving him to brood in quiet solitude. He found himself at a crossroads, unsure of whom to reach out to or what steps to embark upon. Unbeknownst to him, a rhythm emerged as his fingers softly danced upon the table, his hands at ease. With a sudden swing, the door burst open, revealing the supervisor from earlier. He conveyed that we are still navigating the resolution of the matter, yet he avoided meeting my gaze. It ought not to be considerably longer. How much longer must we wait? Barron asked with a sharp edge to his voice. For almost an hour now, you have held all of my information in your grasp. The supervisor paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing their face, before softly muttering something about procedures yet again, then fading away into the background. Barron's frustration was palpable as he let out a deep sigh and raked his fingers through his hair. This transcended the mere need for a citation or ID. It seemed to unveil a deeper, more significant concern. As Melania's SUV glided to a stop at the curb outside the terminal, the scene was set for an unfolding tale. Though her clothing was simple, she carried herself with an air of authority that captivated all around her. As she strolled through the airport, the rhythmic sound of her heels echoed against the gleaming floor, drawing curious glances from those around her. As she glided through the crowd, There was no need for words. People instinctively parted, allowing her to move unhindered. As she drew near the gate where the incident had unfolded, a symphony of whispers and soft voices enveloped her, creating an atmosphere thick with intrigue. The moment she appeared, passengers knew who she was, and a few even pointed the way to where security had escorted Barron. She approached a nearby airline employee and said, "Excuse me, where might my son be found?" The employee found themselves momentarily stunned by the bluntness of the question, their eyes widening in surprise. "Madam, I shall, confirm." Melania chose not to linger for an answer. With unwavering determination, she pressed forward, her gaze ever scanning for the slightest hint of Barron's presence. As the familiar surroundings dawned on her, she quickened her steps. She approached the door just as the two officers made their way back to Barron. Their expressions danced between uncertainty and astonishment as they stood still, captivated by her presence. "What is happening?" she asked, her voice steady but imbued with a weight that insisted on a response. One of the officers found themselves grappling with their words as they spoke to Mrs. Trump. "This is simply a standard practice." She cut in, her eyes icy and piercing. She spoke of the rules that guide us. "My son finds himself confined in a small room, shrouded in mystery and devoid of any explanation." "What kind of protocol are we discussing here?" The supervisor stepped out from the shadows, his face ashen and drawn. "Mrs. Trump, this is simply a misunderstanding. We embarked on a quest to verify the authenticity of his ticket." "A tale of confusion?" Her tone sharpened, yet her voice held steady. "Is this standard of conduct applied to every passenger, or solely those that you choose to distinctly highlight?" The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very fabric of time had paused, leaving the room in a profound silence. Yet, this hush would not linger for long. Melania stood at the edge of seeking answers that remained just out of reach. Melania's gaze held steady as she lingered in the threshold, her presence commanding the room. Barron gazed at his mother, a flicker of relief dancing in his eyes, yet held back with a careful restraint. He straightened in his chair, his shoulders lifting with newfound resolve. The supervisor, Mrs. Trump, faltered, her brow glistening with beads of perspiration. "It is my sincere hope that you can understand our aim was to ensure everything was as it should be." Melania interrupted, her voice cutting through the stillness like a knife. "This is not in order. You held his passport, ticket, and identity in your hands. What other items do you need? Is there a formal invitation to board the aircraft?" The supervisor sought to regain his composure, yet a shiver ran through him. "We have marked his name in the system, which calls for additional verification." Melania's lips pressed together, a subtle shift of her head revealing her restrained demeanor. "Is it marked? Could it be that he is my son? Or perhaps it was because someone decided he was unworthy of first class today?" The officers cast wary looks at one another, each reluctant to be the one to break the silence. The air was thick with anticipation, a sensation that enveloped everyone present. At last, one of the officers broke the silence with a deliberate clearing of his throat. "It is a tradition, my lady. Until now, we had no knowledge of his link to you." Melania's pupils narrowed. "Thus, this relates to his surname." The supervisor sought to express his concerns, yet she interjected by lifting her hand. "Hold on to your justifications. I seek to connect with the person who holds responsibility at this moment." With a moment of uncertainty, the man finally nodded and stepped out of the room to place a phone call. As Melania drew near to Barron, a gentle warmth enveloped her demeanor, and her eyes found their way to his, filled with unspoken tales. "How is your health these days?" she asked softly, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Barron's voice flowed with a calm cadence, yet a hint of frustration danced beneath the surface as he nodded. "Indeed, I find myself in good health. They have been wasting my precious moments." Before making her way back to the officers, Melania gently pressed her hand on his shoulder, offering a sense of comfort. With a calm and steady voice, she expressed, "I would like to clarify something. Your deeds have led to my son's humiliation before many witnesses. This is not a tale of rules or regulations. The essence of this piece revolves around the concept of respect, or the lack thereof." One of the officers shifted in his seat, a flicker of unease crossing his face. Fear not, Mrs. Trump, for we shall set things right. Rest assured, he will be on the next flight without fail. Do you think this relates to the experience of boarding a flight? She stepped in, her voice rising just a touch for the first time. This is about taking responsibility. I have no desire to listen to whispered regrets hidden away from the light. I long for them to find themselves in the very place where it all started. The supervisor reappeared, this time in the company of a more senior airport official. Melania deliberately turned away from the official's gesture, choosing not to engage. He started by recognizing that a miscommunication had occurred. Rest assured, we will embark on a detailed examination of this incident and take the appropriate steps to address it. Melania raised an eyebrow in agreement, deeming the action fitting. Does that involve examining the footage that captures the precise moment this incident began, or addressing the staff who heightened the situation without cause? The official appeared ghostly pale. Rest assured, we shall recover the footage, my lady. Do it, she insisted with unwavering resolve, and do it without delay. As all eyes turned to the official, the atmosphere in the room seemed to tighten with anticipation. Moments later, the supervisor reappeared, a laptop in hand. As Barron sat serenely at the gate agent made their way toward him, a scene captured in the grainy footage that told its own tale. The tale unfolded in its entirety, capturing every unnecessary inquiry and the mounting tension that ultimately led to Barron's departure. Melania watched the footage quietly, her face a canvas of inscrutable emotions. As the final notes faded away, she turned to her supervisor with a sense of purpose. My son deserves a heartfelt acknowledgement from you. The fellow, naturally, stumbled over his words. We shall address the situation without delay. Yet, Melania's tale was far from over. This was more than just an apology. The tale aimed to impart the profound truth that no individual, regardless of their standing or identity, should endure such treatment. The supervisor, now clearly shaken, guided the group back to the boarding gate. Melania strolled beside him, her steps deliberate and resolute, with Barron trailing closely in her wake. The air in the terminal crackled with an unmistakable tension. The unexpected arrival of the young man and his mother stirred the intrigue of the onlookers, who had observed the earlier disturbance and remained nearby, captivated by the unfolding scene. As they drew near the gate, the supervisor stepped forward, cleared his throat, and spoke to the gathered crowd. He pressed on, undeterred by the slight quiver in his voice. Allow me to express my sincere apologies for the events that unfolded earlier today. The events that unfolded were marked by unnecessary and unsuitable actions, stemming from a misunderstanding with one of our passengers, Mr. Barron Trump. The air was thick with whispers, as a few travelers cast astonished glances at one another, while others responded with knowing nods. Melania's steadfast gaze urged the supervisor onward. With a resolute tone, he declared, I wish to ensure beyond any doubt that this young man is innocent of any wrongdoing. We sincerely apologize for the trouble and unease that the incident brought about, as it stemmed entirely from a mistake on our end. Barron stood quietly, his hands nestled within his pockets, exuding an air of calm composure. Yet, he found himself engulfed by the weight of the moment, not solely for himself, but for every soul who has ever felt diminished in the gaze of the public. Melania moved forward, enchanting everyone in the gate area with her presence. With a heart full of appreciation, she conveyed her thanks for your words, her presence calm yet unwavering. Yet simple words fall short. This tale extends beyond just my son. It revolves around the fundamental idea of honoring every person with respect and dignity, regardless of their identity or background. Her words sliced through the silence, leaving the room in a hushed stillness. Though my son carries a name that draws the eye, he is, above all, a young man deserving of fair treatment, just like every traveler in this airport. This is a gentle nudge for each of us to pause and reflect on our choices before we act, and to keep in mind that true respect is not a product of one's position, but rather a reflection of the shared humanity we all carry within us. The crowd burst into a wave of applause, with a few passengers rising to their feet in a show of unity. The supervisor's face burned with embarrassment as he cast his gaze downward. The airport radiated a fresh vibrancy, marked not by judgment or division, but by a sense of togetherness. A woman, cradling a toddler in her arms, made her way toward Barron and Melania as the cheers began to fade. In a soft voice, she said, "I just wanted to convey my apologies for the ordeal you faced." Yet, it was not quite right. Melania's irises glowed with warmth as she offered a gracious smile. "Gratitude fills my heart. That holds immense importance." Barron conveyed his appreciation through a subtle gesture, yet he found himself navigating the whirlwind of unfolding events, striving to make sense of it all. Yet this revelation was merely the beginning of a much larger tale. It signified the beginning of a conversation about accountability, equality, and respect that would reach far beyond the boundaries of this terminal. As the gate area settled into a serene hush, Barron and Melania found themselves gracefully guided to the lounge, a brief interlude before their next journey awaited. The airline staff, now treading lightly, went to great lengths to ensure their comfort. With a touch of elegance, Melania politely turned down the tempting offers of priority boarding and refreshments. For her, this was not a matter of compensation. It was about standing firm on her beliefs. Barron positioned himself opposite her, his hands resting neatly in his lap. In a hushed tone, he pierced the stillness. "I did not foresee any of this." Melania's expression transformed as she lifted her gaze from her phone. She replied, "You handled yourself with great dignity." The Baron merely shrugged, recognizing the difficulty of staying composed in such trying times. "In the past, I have faced comparable situations, though they lacked the same level of visibility." Melania leaned forward, her elbows gently resting on her legs, creating a moment of anticipation. She expressed that this is exactly the crux of the matter. It is simply intolerable for anyone to grow used to enduring unfair treatment. Respect must stand unwavering, not swayed by a last name or outward appearance, whether it pertains to you, me, or a stranger yet to be known. Barron nodded, the weight of his mother's words weaving through the fabric of his thoughts. "Do you think they will genuinely bring about any changes after this?" She tilted her head, lost in thought. Though these moments may not unfold today, they gather and build over time. People take in the world around them. At times, the stance of just one person can inspire others to pause and reflect on their choices. As they lingered in anticipation, Melania's fingers danced across her phone's screen, weaving her thoughts into the digital ether. A tweet emerged on her profile shortly thereafter. "Today, my son faced a trial that no one should ever encounter, being assessed before truly being understood. This serves as a gentle nudge to honor every person with dignity, no matter their name or origin. Respect transcends boundaries and resonates with all of humanity. There is a journey ahead of us, one that calls for growth and enhancement." The post quickly gained traction, sparking lively discussions about responsibility, respect, and prejudice in our shared environments. Amidst the chorus of voices, some rang with critique, while others offered their support. Yet, the prevailing sentiment was clear: fairness and dignity must stand as unwavering principles. Barron perused the replies with a keen eye. As the moment arrived to board the aircraft, Barron and Melania moved toward the gate together, their steps perfectly in sync. The staff, now much more welcoming, guided their way through without a hitch. Melania glanced at her son, who had already slipped on his headphones and was lost in thought, staring out the window as they sat together. With a gentle smile, she pondered the wider view before her. This tale extended beyond just Barron. It was a tale that embraced every soul who had ever felt diminished, overlooked, or unvalued. In times like these, there arose a chance to enlighten, champion transformation, and echo the truth that respect is not merely a privilege, but an inherent right for all. With her eyes gently shut, Melania felt the aircraft glide along the runway, her thoughts weaving through the tapestry of the day's happening. She hoped that the experience would resonate deeply with all who encountered the tale, reaching beyond those who were directly touched by it, even though the journey had been a challenging one. In times of struggle, we often find the deepest insights, and how we react can inspire those around us to rise above bias and cultivate kindness. If this tale struck a chord with you, think about passing it along to someone who might need a gentle nudge about the importance of fairness and respect. Join me in weaving a tapestry of transformation, one dialogue at a time. Kindly take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to uncover more tales that inspire reflection and change.